order the September 17th meeting of the advisory committee, which is happening via Zoom as allowed by law. And we would need a roll call vote, please. So as I call your name, please say present. Tom Callahan.
Present.
Mark Cameron.
Mark Cameron here.
Mike Barclay.
Mike Barclay here.
Vince Thornton.
Vince Thornton present.
Courtney Murphy.
Present.
March, like back a lot, Bentley, I am Sky, 85.
Liz.
Converted to LED. It's embarrassing during the winter months. We've tried to work with the neighbors, but when we do that, it does not adequately cast light to the back of the lot. Walking.
I think that might be background on Diane.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Mike Flaherty.
Present.
Diane Kennedy.
Diane Kennedy present.
Mark Maggi.
Mark Maggi present.
And Gina Stino present. Thank you so much. I just want to take just a minute to introduce our three new members. Tom Callahan. Raise your hand, please. Everybody knows you, Tom.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Mike Flaherty
Good evening.
and Courtney Sullivan.
Hello,
I'm sorry, Murphy. Courtney
Either one.
I'm sure you probably answered to both.
I sure do.
Okay. All right. So welcome. Thanks so much for stepping up. And we look forward to the year ahead and working with all of you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. It's never a problem. Just don't do it to everyone and don't ever press reply all on an email because that could violate the open meeting law. So that's my little chairman spiel for the new members. Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda, oh, and we started at 7:02, sorry. The next item on the agenda is special town meeting and the presentation of the warrant. Yes, Chris.
So just one thing. So I don't see Leontina in the audience tonight.
She's
Jean,
not.
so
She's
okay.
not. So she'll have to work off the recording.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to
Okay.
double check.
And then I can fill in the blanks for her. She did
Okay. So
message
this
me. She did message me and said that she couldn't watch.
so I'm going to put up on the screen in a second the current draft of the warrant, which is just differently ordered. You got one in around 3 and another one around 4. If you have the one around 4, that's the one I would work off because the order is different. So I see. So my Golden is not in the picture. So I don't have it. If she sat in a chair, she'd be looking at all of you. So she's down in the. So you only get one vote, Tom, though, only one. So. I will pull this up now. I understand, Jean, you want to take. Well, I guess we can go through. Did you want to talk about the public safety building first because of
Yes,
Mike's schedule?
please.
Okay. So what will be, at least on the current draft of the warrant, Article 6 is the cost of public safety building. So just for a little bit of context, so a article was approved 2 years ago, and then a debt exclusion vote was approved by voters for 135 King. In the intervening 2 years, the project costs have gone up, and there's been a lot of conversation. It's like we're talking about that in depth earlier this year, and over the summer and next Tuesday, they'll be giving a formal presentation from the committee and the project manager, the OPM, on the results of the bids and all the other pieces that go in. So I will not go into depth on any of this tonight. You can ask me any questions you want, but the big public conversation will take place with the select board next Tuesday. And then obviously a conversation can be had with this committee separately. But if any of you are free to watch either in person at the local commons or on Zoom next week, the select board, that'll be their primary, if not only, topic next Tuesday. And among the conversations will be just where the project is, how renovations at 4462 Elm, which is the current building, will work into this, and what the scheduling, if needed, of a public vote. So another public vote, which will take place probably sometime in November. So So that's that. There's been a lot of public conversation. It's capital budget had a very long meeting about this last week, I think. So if any of you want to watch the Zoom on that, it's there. But I know you might have had some questions. Mike, I'll do the best I can.
Chris, may I ask just a quick question on it?
Sure.
Yeah, and I'm the new guy, so I get to be the dummy for, I think.
You can
one or
ask
two
any,
meetings.
there are no bad questions.
I
Okay,
told him
so
that, but he
I did-
didn't believe
so-
me.
One thing that stuck out to me, and I assume that when the warrant is officially finalized, but there's the thing of a sum of money. Don't we need to be a little direct on that? And I assume when we finalize it, it will have a direct amount.
So that's a good question. The answer is yes. So the bids are, that's the plan, is they want to run a town meeting with a number. So that's what the select board will be presented with next Tuesday. So,
Okay,
and that'll have a lot more details behind it too. So,
got it.
but there is, if you haven't been to it, so all the new members, but any of you, obviously, so there's a town project page on the town's website, and there's a lot of information up there now. So if you went to the front page, you clicked on town projects in the upper left-hand corner of the website, and you clicked on the public safety project or the tennis courts or whatever, it's all the information is there. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact my office at any point. So just email me, email Tracy, and by the way, I know that some of the new members may not have seen facilities. I know that there are liaison roles, which we all talked through about. If there's any facilities you haven't seen or want to see, just contact my office and we can arrange a tour. Police, fire, water, sewer, just so you get some idea, because you're going to see all of these things in one form or another over your term, but most certainly a lot will come before annual town meeting. So there's plenty of time for that. But if anyone wants to do a tour or see any facilities, including the schools, if they haven't seen parts of them, let us know and we can set something.
Okay, so Mike is next, but I just want to say one thing. If you put your cursor down at the bottom of the screen, one of the items is raise hand. So if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand. I will try and get everybody in order as I see you. I might miss once in a while and pick somebody else, but we've got a pretty good system going. So Mike, you're next.
Yeah, Chris, I guess, so the question is next Tuesday, are we gonna have bids in hand? Are
Yes.
these gonna be hard numbers? Okay, because I feel like as the person who stood up on behalf of advisory and pitched this the first time, I support it. I'm happy to do it again. There's absolutely gotta be some kind of numbers walk in the warrant as to how we, what the delta is. And, we've got that informational summary part. You've just got to because people will pick up the warrant, they'll read it, but they might not go to the talking points that's on the website. And you just have to get that out as many places as possible. And I'll go to the select board meeting and listen and, get the numbers down myself. But just while it was unanimously approved on the floor of town meeting last time, almost 40% of the people voted against it at the polls. And so, this is going to be a heavy lift. It's absolutely needed. Anybody who's been in the public safety building on Elm Street knows it should have been redone 20 years ago. And it's not a surprise to hear that, with inflation and the cost of municipal projects that, this is a bigger price tag. But just the numbers have to be explained, because without that, platitudes aren't going to get it done.
So again, that will be, so next Tuesday, the project owner's project manager will be there. There'll be a whole presentation with all of that information. And then there are already actually the bids, the component of the project that is the bids are actually up on, I think it's the town's website, but it's most certainly I think it's on the project on the bidding site, because those are all public once they're revealed. So that said, there's more to it than that. There's other pieces to it still. There's a couple of some equipment purchases and stuff like that are also being pointed out. So
Yeah, the more detail, the better, Chris.
yeah, no, I absolutely. Absolutely.
So, okay. So, all right. So with that in mind, I've said my piece, Gene, and we'll take this up, hopefully with a lot more detail and, firmer ground to stand on next time.
Great. Very good.
Okay,
And I would recommend if anybody has time to watch the select board meeting next Tuesday, you can actually go there live and sit in the audience. Sometimes that's a better situation if you're trying to grab the details. Sometimes the sound isn't great on the recordings. So
So I'm going to share my copy of the warrant on the screen so all of you can follow along. And then I'm going to probably blank my video because my computer's being a little glitchy with me. So I don't think it could do too many things at once right now. So
And Gene, if it's okay, I've got to run to my other obligation.
that's fine. I absolutely get it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, thanks, everyone.
all right, you can all see, I think, right?
Yes.
Okay, see nods of heads. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, good. So, the working Article 1, so the town, and this is gonna be a barn burner, this may have debate for hours, I'm kidding. So the town ended up taking over the community market, the farmer's market, after the citizens that had run it for a number of years decided they were tired, they had a lot of other things to do. We're still looking for volunteers from the community to help form a committee to oversee this. Staff did support this the whole year, a group of folks. That said, there's a decent amount of work even in the off season, and obviously during the market days, there's work that have to be done. We manage it through a gift account, which is not a great way to do it for the long term. So like we have other revolving funds, we need to create one for this if we're going to maintain active management of it. So that's all this is to create a revolving fund for the classic community market with with an expectation. This is just if there's a citizen group that wants to take it over, we're more than happy to turn it back over. But this is just to be secure if the town is going to continue to run it. So.
Anybody have any questions?
This is one of the ones I mean, again, you can decide at the end, after I go through this, Jane, what the committee's prepared to vote on, or what you need more information on before you make recommendations.
Sure.
Okay.
It-
By the way,
it-
Article 2
question.
was a prior years.
So I would go on to number 2.
Okay, so we have 6 and so I'm hoping that we haven't had any of these in a number of years, so I'm a little disappointed at the same time. We were stretched a little bit without a full-time on-staff accountant, which we now have, which we're very excited about. And these are all really kind of random. As you can see, there's one for $93.75. And it goes on up to a $7,500 one for tree removal. So you can see that 4 of the 6 of them came out of the TPW. So and these are what they are. I'm not expecting any others. We've shaken the trees really hard on this. So these are the group of them that are there. And again, we have to pay them. It does require a crazy vote. I think it's like 90%, but it's these are all certified bills that from FY25 they didn't get paid in FY25, and there were no encumbrances made for them for whatever reason. So
Okay, and you're fairly sure that there will be no more?
yes, if there are, I'll let you know. But at this point, I've asked and asked. So if there were any more, I'd show them to you in the next 2 weeks. So
Okay, then what I would suggest, Chris, is that we go through all of these. We have
Yeah.
conversations on the ones that require conversation. And then next week, we can take action on the ones that are
That's
ready,
great.
prime time.
Okay. So that's Article 2. Article 3 is again this is a routine one, stabilization funds. What this does, it continues with our policy for funding OPEB trust fund. If any of you recall at annual, we deferred a chunk of money. It was $98,500 to the fall just because things were tight. We weren't sure what was going on with the schools for sure. So this fully funds that 98.5 plus the 350 that we would normally have made in contribution in the fall. So the total is 448,500. So this keeps us in compliance. Katie Dugan, who's on the OPEB committee, was at the select board meeting last night, commenting on this favorably. So any questions for me on this?
So for the benefit of the new people here, the OPEB is other post-employment benefits. And that is the retirement benefits for people who leave us.
The healthcare, the
reason-
healthcare.
Yeah, gee, I used to be on OPEB if you want me to speak like 30 seconds on it, or
Does anybody have questions? I just wanted to explain what the,
yeah, it's other than pension. So it's retirees healthcare. And if we let this spiral out of control, it's gonna get really expensive. We're using a little bit of free cash to tread water until we roll off Norfolk County's pension system. And then I think the agreement we made was half of the money we've been throwing towards that will be used to get us whole with regards to our other post-employment benefit obligations. But for right now, we're just throwing a little bit of free cash at it each year so it doesn't spiral out of control.
Well, it's actually, it's now up close to $600,000. So and the policy ramps us up every year by a couple of percent. So the contribution.
Yeah, I think the unfunded obligation is like somewhere between 20 and 40 million though. So
No, right,
600 is
no.
great,
That's a fair point. We're nicking away at it, but we are
we
making.
are, and we do have this is just to let this, like, keep chipping away at it until we have this, until we roll off what we owe Norfolk County for our pensions, and then we can use, since pensions and other post-employment benefits are sort of similar funds, we've made the decision that we'll use some of that money to catch us up quicker, but for the time being, we're using this just to kind of tread water.
Okay.
okay,
Questions of me?
I don't think so.
Okay. So capital improvements, there's just a couple of things. The water has a the residuals management area is the lagoon behind the plant where they the plant filters out manganese and iron because the water is it has a decent amount of that because surface water in this region is just full of leached out iron and manganese, which isn't toxic or anything, but it most certainly has to be filtered out or destroys the pipes and makes people's laundry funny colors. So what happens is that there's a big bag has to be removed. They're in the process of expanding that area, and this is part of that plan. So they'd be using retained earnings for that. They have somewhere north of $1 million in retained earnings, so they won't have to bond this. The other one is for sewer. They're in phase 2 of an asset management plan grant from the state. They just did the first phase. They're actually going to be presenting that publicly to the select board, I think, probably in October at some point. And this is phase 2, which is going to get the first phase was mostly the plant. The second phase was the field. Checking the pipes, checking all the pump stations and connections, and so it's primarily field work. And our match is 72. The grant I think is 120, and there's a small amount of in kind, so that'll come out of sewer retained earnings. But again, it's this phase 2 of this really important asset management grant for the sewer. And the last one, there's some. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark has a question.
What's the sewer retained earnings balance?
So I'll have it. By the way, we'll have updated ones for town meeting. Our town account's going to file in at the end of this month for free cash and retained earnings for both of our enterprise funds. Again, I believe it's somewhere north of $1 million, Mark. I could double check. So they have plenty of money in there. So
Okay.
And again, this is something that should be paid within cash. You shouldn't. The other project on here is the trench drains. They're in the DPW building, and it's there to catch, if they're doing oil changes or whatever, it's supposed to catch stuff. So then it gets taken out and goes into tanks and then gets pumped away. It's an environmental protection system. And these are, they have to be either upgraded or replaced. I'm not 100% sure which it is, but that's the quote that we have for that. So, that's, and I guess it's it's something that would be better to do now. So rather than wait till the spring. So those are and it's also going to be some repurposed. The motion will include water has 4 projects that closed out with money. So those will be repurposed to defer, which probably will bring down the 420 to a smaller number. So they won't be touching all of them. Retained earnings. I want to say it's about $50,000 spread among 4 different projects that'll be repurposed since they're done. So something we do on a regular basis when projects close out. Questions for me?
I'm good. Anyone else?
All right, the Osgood roof. So the town was accepted into the Accelerated Repair Program of the Massachusetts School Building Authority for the first time. And it was a great collaborative effort. And I was actually on the roof when the team came and visited. And so we've gone through we funded, we were accepted to the program, we funded the design, the design and scoping. And so this is the next phase. This is to fully fund the project. So the absolute max total cost, which none of us hope will be anywhere near this number, is $5,858,522, and this is based on the estimations of the Mass School Building Authority. They're going super conservative on things these days because I don't want to have a project that comes in over budget ever at this point. The town's percentage reimbursement will be 32.47%. So that means our max cap on this, based on their formula, is $1,902,262. That said, that's if the project comes in less than $5.8 million, the grant will be 32.47% of that. So it'll come down. Questions? I think you have a question from Courtney Jean.
Hey, Chris, thanks. Do we have any sense of what the term material extend, how does that translate to numbers? I'm just saying, like, I'm sort of looking for what's the average lifetime of a school building, and if this is going to material extend it, the roof.
Oh, yeah. So this is at the end of use. That's a great question. This is the end of useful life. So the town had this has been on the long-term capital plan for a while. So we knew it was coming. The roof was redone. The school was built about 25 years ago. So the roof was coming to its end. And so there's been proactive work done to repair it. And it fit the criteria for the Massachusetts School Building Authority's this accelerated repair program, which is roofs and windows and big things like that maintain a building for the long term. We participated in it, and so I want to say that the new roof will last at least 25 years. I believe that's
Another 25?
That's the plan. That'll be this will be fundamentally new. But included in this cost, there's also some skylights have to be replaced, and some small ADA things in the building. I don't know what they're in the scope. That'll be, if it's not on the website now, it will be. There's a whole big long list of elements to it. Because the MSBA, when they come through, they look at other things too to make sure the school's fully in compliance. And the Osgoods, this is the K-2 school is the newest of the three buildings, and it's actually in pretty decent shape actually. But this will, the goal of this would be to have another 25 years, brand new roof, 25 years in life. That's the hope.
Awesome. Thank you.
Courtney, just to
and also, by the way, I should also go ahead, Jane. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just to speak to what Chris was saying, I was on the school committee from 2010 to 2019, and we were watching these roofs the whole time. But the building authority will not give you money until the roof is at least 20 years old. And then they kept moving the ball. So it's time, is my point.
And I should
add, and then Mark has his hand up.
So let me just add one more thing, if I may. So, well, it does mention also borrowing. The plan is to pay for this 100% over 2 years with the money that's coming from the Special Stabilization Fund for Schools that was approved by the voters 2 years ago. So there's not enough in it today to pay the full amount of the town's piece, which is $3.7 million, give or take. Is that right? $3.8 million and change. So the borrowing, we may never actually borrow any money because this project is planned to be done next summer while school's closed. So it's actually technically an FY27. So it'll be done that summer. So the hope is that we will actually be able to get to special town meeting a year from now, appropriate the rest of because you can only appropriate money in the Special Stabilization Fund on an annual basis, as we now discovered in the year. And I won't go into all the details of that, but so there'll be enough money between what's in the fund this year that's accumulated, plus the money from next year to fully pay for this. So that'll be the funding source. But the borrowing, when the town authorizes borrowing, it also allows the town to lend itself money if we have the money available. So we can kind of lend it to ourselves. And in this case, I think there'll be enough delay in the payments because the project won't wrap up in a week. It'll be a period of time, so we're probably paying the last bills in the fall anyway. So I think we'll be okay on a timing perspective. I don't know if you can say, I think you have a question from Mark, Gene.
Mark, yep.
Chris, has this been designed yet?
Yes, yeah, it's
The
going,
design is
actually,
done.
yeah, it's ready to go to bid.
Okay, and when would it wouldn't, if it's gonna be if it's gonna be under for construction next summer, when is it going to be sent out for bid?
Oh, geez. That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure. It's whatever the MSBA guidelines are. Because it's a very structured process. So it's a very structured process.
And I know
Oh, you
they've-
know what? As I say that, I could be wrong. Maybe the construction documents aren't done yet, but the design is done. But I'm not sure if the construction documents are done for bidding yet. I'm not sure if that's the case.
it'd be good to also get a sense of what the basics of the design are, just in terms of they've talked about some coatings in the past versus an actual full replacement of the roof. Not to get too deep into the weeds, but just to understand what that is. I think the MSBA only allows certain things, so just be good to understand what we're actually getting.
Yeah, I that is all detailed. And again, Nick would be the best person to describe that. So I'll either have him available next week, or I'll get materials for him to distribute to all of you in the next week, so you can have them. And I will probably start populating a special town meeting page too, so we'll have materials up there, including it's a very structured process. I have a multi-page Excel spreadsheet that goes down to the nitty-gritty of what everything is, so I can share that for sure.
Okay.
So,
Great. Thanks, Chris.
but this is very exciting. This is the first time we've ever been in this program, so we're excited to be part of it. So.
Does anybody have more questions about this one? No, then we can move on to number 7, because we already discussed number 6.
So not, yeah, we talked about the public safety building. So yeah, there's information on the website now. And again, next Tuesday, there'll be a big presentation in front of Select Board. So I encourage everyone to be, if you're available, to watch that.
Yep.
And then there'll be more clarity on what the actual final number is and all of that. So. Okay. Number 7 is one you've seen before. This is the creation of an enterprise fund for the recycling transfer facility. Obviously, it didn't go into effect because it lost in a close vote, and I think there was a lot of confusion, which we've tried to cure. The Select Board has held 2 public forums, and one at Wilka Commons, one at the library. They've discussed it at public meetings several times. There's information on the website about this. There's a page describing what's going on with all of this as well, including what they are. So an enterprise fund is basically it's an accounting vehicle, and it can only be used for certain types of utilities, public utilities like water, sewer, cable TV, electricity. We don't have those, but some communities have those. Some people do their ambulances that way. We don't do that. But this is one of those that are available, the recycling transfer facilities where people drop their garbage. So, and we split it, separate it, and recyclables go to various places, and we also collect other things. So there's been a lot of public conversation about this. The Select Board independently has the right to adopt fees and has adopted a set of fees and there's been a budget presented, and I'm happy to, if all of that's on the web, I'm happy to share everything the Select Board has, but it's all up on the web. And so this would go into effect on January 1 if approved. So it'll be a half year of the enterprise fund. So questions for me?
Mark?
So from a very basic level, right now the Select Board controls the prices that are set up at the RTF with recommendations from the DPW, correct?
Correct.
And fundamentally, with this change, that's not gonna change, correct? It's still gonna follow that process?
Correct. Select Board is still the
And-
authority. We're not going to set there's talk about setting up some kind of a committee to help assess how it's going and give feedback. I think the Select Board is looking into doing that. That said, the Select Board will still have the base authority to set fees as they do today. That's not going to.
Well, where the Water Commission and the Sewer Commission have their own boards, we're not intending to have this have its own board. It's still going to be managed by the DPW, and the fees are still going to be set by the select board. So from that perspective, it really isn't a change. And maybe that might help develop some comfort level with folks that that this is the right move, because I get the sense now that the more money that's being spent up at the RTF is, the more money you spend up there, the more money they lose up there, because of the way the funds get reappropriated through the budget.
It's one of those areas where there's an easy match between what you spend and what you need. And it's a service. So at the same time, it has benefits for the town as a whole, even if you don't use it all the time, because there's almost always going to be something you need it for, whether it's brush day, which the town is intending to continue, whether it's, you have a tire from some vehicle that you didn't get rid of for some reason you want to get rid of, or a propane tank that does not have propane in it and is, disabled. Things like that. We want it, that'll all be continued. Those, and in order to do that, we need to have this set up. And it's one of the other things that came out of the fire was just a whole look at how it runs. And I think I don't know if whoever uses it on a regular basis, we've been getting really good feedback about how it's operating, how much smoother it's operating. So
You all set?
This does have a small effect on the schools, right? So there's
so the budget this year was built to not include it was built without the revenue from the bag fees, and the schools are made whole for any of that loss. So in this budget cycle, so they're already whole in this cycle, and that would be going forward, right? So because the revenue was the revenue was added into their budget this last year, so they ended up going up 3.8% this year. The town only went up like 2.2 because of that switch of so the town ended up eating the whole loss of the $250,000. We were able to do that because, well, on the budget that was presented, because we also moved the expenses out, so expenses were going to the RTF. Hopefully, we'll be able to.
I think Diane's might be trying to get back in if someone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I should follow up. It's hard for me to see right now because I'm in this mode. Give me. You want to ask a question, Mark, and then I'll stop sharing for a second, get Diane back in, and then come back.
Yeah, it's Mark Maggi.
Yeah, and I hate to be Mr. Negative here. Is there an alternative plan? If not this, then what? I worry from history and having been through a bunch of these in the past, when something fails once, it tends to fail again. And I don't mean to be so fatalist on this, but like, is there another option? Are we just going to keep throwing this idea back to town meeting and having them vote down on it? Like, or are we going to be asked to come up with another option?
Well, so what the select board's talked about is the fact that we can't, there's a tax cap, right? So we can only do so much on that. We can't do anything on that side. So what'll have to happen is the fees for permits and bags will have to go up further. So right now the select board set them, and we'll have to. They've already said they'll have to go up higher.
So I think it's worth laying that out. Like, people aren't going to think this is a good option. That's my personal opinion. But if this is the best of a series of not great options, I think the other worse options need to be clarified, or at least have someone prepared to speak on them. Like, if we don't do this, there's no easier, better option. There's this or some worse options.
And that was discussed at the two forums and at the select board meeting. And I believe there's information on that on the website, including.
And I totally agree with you, but we're going to go to town meeting and people are going to say, this is the first time hearing about it. You've never told us
I
about
hear you.
this.
So we got to do a good job of getting out to people before town meeting.
Right.
As possible.
Yep. No, I've done that at Milliken Field for other things, and I'm willing to help again. It's just, like I said, we have to get ahead of this, because people think by voting against this, they're voting for some better option, but there isn't a better option out there. This is probably the best option we have. If there was an easier solution, we obviously would have chosen that one.
Most other communities have gone to this, Situate being an example, Hanover most recently, because it makes sense, right? It's one of those areas that can be operated out. It can be operated when I say independently from an accounting point of view, right? What the enterprise fund does, so there's revolving funds do this on a more limited basis, right? And we already use those for the senior center for programs and for rec for programs. what this what enterprise fund fundamentally does, it allows you to save money. So you can put money away for capital expenses. There's going to be capital expenses at the RTF going forward. One of the things that hasn't happened over the years is there hasn't been a lot of investment. It just hasn't. And the fire forced a hard look. And the money that we got back from the insurance was helpful. That said, I think there's and we want to maintain that. Right? We want to maintain the equipment up there, and we want to make sure that the residents have a good experience, and that if there's other changes, we've talked about other improvements that could be made to help, and rather than take that out of the same pot as everyone else to have the RTF pay for itself, because these are expenses. They're $40,000-$50,000 hits. They're not like $1,000 capital things. Those big bailers and those things, right? So and again, I think Brian, again, you're right. The public forums have 20, 30 people in them, right? And we have thousands of people in town. So I'm happy to spread the word of all the stuff we've talked about to get it out there as much as possible. And Mark, every question is good. Thank you.
Yep.
Diane?
Yeah, just something to consider in drafting kind of talking points is really what the difference is. And, I've been at this game for a very long time, but I'm still like, why wouldn't we do a revolving fund as opposed to an enterprise fund? And I think having, setting up the answers for that is going to help us go a long way. So,
by the way, that would be a better option B than sticking it and keeping it in the general fund.
So, right. So maybe there is an option B again, which goes to Mark's point about just making sure that, we're sophisticated enough in how we present the information and the alternatives.
So that said, yeah. So the forums were also recorded if you want to watch them. I think they were good, and I think we created there were some questions and answers that were created out of some feedback that was received earlier, and they're all up on the website. So we're happy to help spread that out as far as possible. So I will put the back up. Just a second to find it. My slow computer. Okay. So that I'm guessing Mark's hands up, but it's not really up. So
Sorry.
okay. So amendments to the operating budget, and part of this is there's a bunch of kind of unusual things in here. Some are common and some will be able to explain them. So the first, the sewer department ended up with a bill that had to be paid in the spring that could have been taken out of retained earnings, but we didn't know it in time. So the town had to cover it with free cash, which we could. So this is the first line is the payback of that money. It's $70,548. So that's going to be coming out of sewer retained earnings and going back into the general fund. And what we plan to do with it is put it into the DPW to plug the cost of the household hazardous waste collection and the landfill gas monitoring, which are coming out of the landfill operation side and moving into the regular DPW, because the landfill gas monitoring has nothing to do with the RTF anymore, and household hazardous waste day is not contingent on you being an RTF member. So that's part of a regional organizational plan. The second is to help. We didn't budget any paper throw bag revenue this year, so we'll supplementally appropriate this money and put it at RTF expenses, because we had a $200,000 placeholder that was just in case. That's the only money that's in the RTF right now, and we're going to have to pay the bills, even if when the RTF is approved by Hope at town meeting, we'll start to pay the bills for the first 6 months. So we're going to need to put some more money back into that to pay those bills to balance the budget, and this will be a chunk towards doing that. Another area we had to trim a little bit this year was in the central IT budget is purchases of equipment. So we've been ramping that up, so that we shouldn't be bonding for laptops and all if we don't have to. It's laptops, printers, small stuff, desktops where we use them, screens, and Ron has been very good at using something called E-rate, and we get money back. So he wants to be able to put that back. This is money that we get back rather than have it fall into free cash. To take it, it's documented this $11,468 and put it back into equipment, and that would go to do some more purchasing this year of laptops and other equipment that needs to be replaced on a regular cycle. particularly because we're in the it's Windows 10 to 11 cycle, and there are still some old machines that need to be replaced just to be safe. The next one is the transfer I make all the time. This is the money that comes in from Comcast and Verizon, and we take it and we send it to 143 TV. That's the independent entity that runs the cable station. And the money, there was actually a lagged money we didn't get till after the fiscal year last year, so it's sitting there. So it's the total for now is $162,000. I think it's 162,344. I think Tracy left the number out there, so it really is a 162 and something else. So one of the things that often happens, and this year we had more short-term borrowing than usual because of some of the big projects we're doing. We did the borrowing after town meeting, so we have some costs for interest that we didn't have budgeted. Usually it's a few $1,000s this year because it's interest rates are higher and it was a bigger number. We have $71,800 that needs to be just supplemented into the budget to pay those interest costs for the year. The next one is a one, for some reason, $4,125 that there was just a line in the transfer from capital stabilization that was off by $4,125. I don't know why it was good on one chart but wrong on another. So we have the expense correct, but we don't have the revenue correct. So this needs to be put in. We could find other ways to fund it, but our accountant is like, look, we're going to town meeting. Why don't we just keep it clean right now? I'm like, good. So it's a small amount of money, but it just matches what we're actually paying on the debt for that project. And there's only a couple of years left on that, which is good. The next two are from water. They're looking to take retained earnings to put into their operating budget, $100,000 back into legal engineering, and they have some fees that they've had unexpectedly for engineering costs. So they don't want to have their budget drained in September, October. They'd rather have some left over, and if they don't spend it all, they'll go back into free cash. But that will cover that, and they have the money in retained earnings. And the second $100,000 is for extraordinary maintenance. And again, I don't remember the specific. There's a specific project they were working on that ended up eating into it already. So they want to put more money back in, so it's there if they need it for extraordinary maintenance in the spring. So both reasonable requests, and the money's there. The last is one of those, as Mark was saying earlier. What's the option B? So this is what we'd have to do if the RTF doesn't pass to say the new permit fees coming in, which again aren't budgeted, would go into the RTF. It's going to be worded a little bit more cleanly. It's not, but it's just there to show that that would be if the RTF article isn't passed, we're going to have to supplement the money because we have to pay for the RTF for the rest of the year, and the new permit fees will then go into that, and so it'll be designated as supplemental appropriation because again, it wasn't in the original budgeting that we did for the year. So that's the catch-all if we don't, because we still have to pay bills. You kind of have your hand raised from me, Gene, so go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a quick question going back to the RTF.
Sure.
And excuse me, is the sticker due date going to change?
Nope, no, it's still March 31st.
Okay.
So all the ones that are good are current through then, and then people buy them at that point. So
Okay. Any questions? Any more questions? Then we can move on.
there's two one-time cost articles in here. One actually does have to do with the facilities permits. The clerk is looking to change how they're processed. So it'll save her office time and money. She won't have to have as many of those part-timers that she uses. And it'll be a cleaner, simpler online system. And in order to implement it, and it's through Unipay, which is what we use for our tax bill, tax payments and all that. There's a startup cost and some software that's been written to link to our software, to the assessor's databases, which is what is used for validation of addresses. And the total for that is $10,400. The annual operating costs will come out of the clerk's budget because that's how it's processed. And then we had tried to put in front of you folks, and you weren't able to get a quorum together. There was an emergency repair work that was done at the high school electrical room. And Nick gave an explanation of this. Jake gave an explanation of this at the select board meeting a week or so ago. It turns out that the big rainstorm we had over the summer back in July, fortunately the electrical system wasn't damaged, but other stuff that was stored in there was. And they went back, they ended up starting to investigate what had to really be done. And it turned out there was it was an old storm pipe that had not been properly retied in 25 years ago when the building was renovated. And it had just been leaching into the ground, and it just reached a point where it couldn't do it anymore. And with all the rain that had happened, so what they had to dig up, they found an old water line that had been abandoned. It wasn't on any lines either. So there was a lot of work that had to be done. So it ended up costing $96,000. The good news is that the room now, I'm told, is bone dry. So there's no more water problems. But unfortunately, when they were digging stuff up, they were finding stuff that was, 25 years not done right. And it had to get done because you can't have water in the electrical room. That's two things that don't mix well. So since we're so close at this point to the town meeting, we might as well just go to town meeting and get the money. So rather than go through a reserve fund and get the money back to the reserve fund, it just made sense to get it done this way. So questions? I have a question from
Mark.
On the all facilities one, it sounds like that's a system that would offset, like you said, some part-time staffing.
Yeah.
To get that. So if that would be an ultimate savings, then couldn't that be handled through internally within the budget versus an additional cost? I understand there's startup fees too, but wouldn't that?
So I think it's going to save money not over in the current year, but also in future years. So I don't know it's all going to be that savings in 1 year. At least the clerk didn't indicate to me that she would save $10,400 in the first year, but she will save it in time and expenses. But she didn't give me a split. She did say she'd hire less people and it would be less intrusive on her staff. But I didn't get a full blown analysis of saved expenses. I could ask for something more in detail.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would just help explain it, just to the masses here that, I mean, even if it's not over in the first year or two, right? You often have a longer term payback for some of these things, but
Right.
At least just from a math, from a gut checks perspective, to make sure that okay, this actually does make sense.
Makes sense. I know, I hear you, and so I will ask for a little more detail on that. I know that just from there's only 2 of them full time, right? So when they're out of the season and people still show up, those can often take time. And the clerk's planning to do a presentation on what this will look like to the select board. So, but I have more materials on it I can share with them too. So, okay.
No more questions?
So the process for the all facility stickers are really regulated or governed by regulations that the select board adopts in conjunction with the clerk. But there's a lot of language. There's like 5 sections in chapter 244, and when I was talking to the clerk about amending them, I'm like, why don't we just scrap it and just have 2 sections in there, which I still have to be presented with council, where basically it says, instead of these 6 sections that are sometimes internally not entirely consistent over the last 50 years of bylaw, any place that's so indicated by appropriate signage requires a permit. The rules for the processing and sale of permits are governed by regulations to be adopted by the select board in conjunction with the town clerk. It would make the bylaw simpler and also make the whole process simpler for amendment, because there's it already references regulations, but there's, like I said, there's 4 other sections. It would make the bylaw simpler and smoother. So you'll have the actual language and you can see the contrast. It's one of these things that I had never really looked at before, but it's just old language that it should just be cleaned up and simplified. It's kind of like we did with HR some years ago, where there was stuff in the bylaws and it just went to a manual that the select board adopts from time to time, which has been great. It's much more comprehensive and better, and we shouldn't have to go to town meeting every time we change, what holidays are offered, like when Juneteenth came, right, and became a federal holiday. So in this case, if there's going to be changes in the rules, the select board adopts them anyway. It doesn't make sense to have other lingo in there about what lots are covered, right? The select board may say, oh, we want to put permits on another street or something, or why they have to go to town meeting to amend what's covered by parking regulations is not something we do for anything else. So that's that. Questions? And you'll see it better when you see the language, but it really just simplifies things. The next one's a little unusual. The state just passed a bill in the last year's session, allows wine and malt on premises licenses to be converted to all alcohol licenses just for the term. First, you have to adopt it locally and say, we want to have this option. And then the select board is the licensing granting authority. If you're a holder of a wine and malt license, you have to go to the select board and petition for it. They have to hear it, and then they can allow it to be transformed. But then it goes back to a malt and wine when you turn it back in. So it's not forever. It's just for the period of time that that's sought. And then we have 4 of these, by the way. So and we're about to issue the last one. So it's another tool that allows a little more flexibility. I think there's 2 questions, Gene.
Sorry, I'm reading. Mark,
I think last year we petitioned the state for additional full liquor licenses.
You're correct, and so 5 of them. That's it. I actually just testified on behalf of the town virtually last week. The chairman acknowledged that I had testified and said they're working on it and they look forward to passing it. So I'm hoping that'll pass this fall. So that is in process. This just
So that would mean 5 additional full liquor licenses.
Correct, for on premises for restaurants.
Okay, and then
these are just
and no wine and malt is part of that, right?
No. Those are just 5. Most people seek all alcohol when they do these things.
Yep.
Even CVGs, right? They just open up on 3A because they want to do like mimosas sometimes in the mornings and for their lunch or brunch crowd. And they can't do that technically because it's not, what goes in the mimosa is not beer or wine. So this is just another, this would allow the 4 that we do have to be upgraded at the request of a holder.
And the additional 5 that we are looking to get.
Yeah, this doesn't have anything to do with that. This would just, so I'm hoping though for favorable response from the state this fall on those other 5 licenses.
Okay, thank you.
okay, Mike,
Yes, thank you, Chris. Apologies. Just going back to Article 10, will there be more information on that? That seems overly vague to me. When I'm reading that, I don't know what it means.
No, you're right. There's nothing there. So I'm gonna send you what the current bylaw looks like and what the proposed new bylaw will look like.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And the goal is to simplify it down from 7 articles to 2. Which I think the clerk and I both agree would make more sense. So, but again, that's just a proposal. So, but you'll see it next week.
Okay.
Great.
Or actually, you'll see it this week for conversation next week. So, any other thing on Article 11?
11, do you still have more questions, Mike? Your hand's still up.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I do not. I'll take it down.
I can't see all of you on my screen, so I apologize if I miss when you put your hand up.
So the Article 12 is something similar. The town long ago voted to accept a chapter of the law that allows the treasurer to lien unpaid water bills. And since water and sewer bills are billed jointly, we've always piggybacked the sewer bills on the water bills. And council said, you probably should just adopt this to be clean. So basically, it's just adopting a parallel section to what the town adopted, I believe, back in '94 that allows us to lien water bills. And again, if someone doesn't pay the water bill, they have a chance to pay it. If they don't, it goes added to their tax bill, and then we get it. So that makes the water, in that case, the water department whole. This would just put another piece to ensure that sewers being done too, that we have been doing it, but in a slightly different way. But this, I think council just said, you probably should just adopt this and get it clean. So it's kind of this is a housekeeping effectively, to adopt this section of state law. Any questions of me? So Article 13 has to do with the potential for leasing the school roofs for solar power. And that was, this had been approved a number of years ago, and I think Jean can talk more to that. She was on the school committee, I believe that was all discussed and voted. And the option has, those prior authorizations, I think have kind of expired. And for a long time wasn't feasible because the roofs are old and it didn't make sense to put them on and then take them off. But now with the Osgood roof in the process of, in the queue now for being fully repaired and good for a good 25 years, and Deer Hill next in line, and then the middle high school obviously in the conversation too, it's a real conversation. Now, whether the market and regulations are going to make it economically viable is something else entirely. That said, the Alternative Energy Committee said, hey, while there's still a reasonable possibility of this, let's at least see if there's any interest in there. So that's what this is, and they have to go to the school committee to get their blessing, which they haven't done yet. But go ahead, Jean. Let me stop.
And I just want to add that this doesn't mean that there's going to be a solar power electric generation facility on the roof. This just gives us permission, if there's a great deal and great rates, to put it there now. We spent a lot of time and energy on the solar array that's at the old landfill, and we were very excited about the opportunities because the rates were fabulous, would have really benefited us. But then it was very disappointing to find out that, I mean, we even went so far as to say that, to put in the contract that at one time during the solar power lifetime, we would allow the power to be taken off the roof so that we could redo the roof and then put it back on. So we were really proactive on ways to get it done that didn't work because of the age of the roofs. And as I mentioned earlier, when we were talking about the Osgood roof, the goalpost for the roof, the life of the roof, keeps moving. So at first we were told it was 19 years. Then we were told it was 20 years. Then we were told that it changed to 25 years and that they wouldn't give us any money until all of those deadlines had gone by. So as I said, it was very disappointing at the time. So this is exciting that we could be able to do it if this is voted. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen as soon as the roof is done, just for clarity. Mark?
So if this passed, what entity in town would have the decision making to put solar up there or not?
The school committee.
School committee. And so they would, because obviously there's no substantial numbers behind this as to, solar options of leasing versus buying. And so if this passed, then it would get to the stage where proposals would be put in front of the school committee for them to decide.
That's the theory. So that's what the Alternative Energy Committee would hope might be possible. Now, whether it's going to happen or not, without this, none of that happens, right? This just allows the conversation to take place. It doesn't, as Gene was saying, it doesn't mandate that anything ever happen. And
but still, at this moment, they still have the opportunity to, the town has the opportunity to buy solar panels and put them up there. It's just leasing of them. That's the question.
Yeah, there's again, I think Tanya Waddell of the AEC can explain this in far better detail than I can, but there's still under the rules that currently exist that are going to be phased out starting next year. There's an incentive for firms that do this, and they've been doing it. Like our landfill is something like this, right? The solar array on that. This is the same kind of concept where a private developer comes in and does it. We get discounts, they get tax credits, and it's like I hate to use this term, but a win-win, right? And it worked like that way in a lot of places. This is kind of the last gasp of that particular program potentially, unless something else comes along. But you're right, the schools can most certainly seek to put solar.
And is there any expiration on this, or is this?
Yeah, I think there has to be. It would be the motion. Yeah, I'd have to double check. So the AEC has to put this on as a placeholder. They still have to talk to the school committee. Again, if the school committee doesn't want to do this, it's not going to go forward. But it's on here to give them an opportunity to do that.
So what happens is the solar company comes in and they put their equipment on the roof. We lease the roof to the solar company, and then they take the power and they offload it into the grid, which effectively helps everybody with lowering rates. That's a very oversimplified explanation of how it was going to happen way back. So things have probably changed. I know that the rates back then were unbelievable. The benefits that we would have gotten were great. Some of the tax credits have gone away, but I think that there's some more that have been voted. So it's kind of a wait and see.
So by the way, before I jump to hit the last one, let me just go back for a second. So there's one thing that I met with the chair of the Village Historic District Study Committee, Woody Chittick, this week. And the Historical Commission is seeking $10,000. That'd be in a one-time cost article for a consultant to do the first 3 parts of a 7-stage assessment of looking at adding, of turning parts of the village, the business district, into a historical district as well. The only one that the town currently has is around the common. This would add properties, would create one and potentially link it with the one on the common. So the select board created the committee at the request of the historical commission, and Woody is the chair now. I've asked him to give me some materials on it so I could share it with all of you. So that'll be on there. It's a $10,000 ask. And that'll be in the one-time cost. I'm sorry, I forgot to put that in there, but I just wanted to raise it with all of you. So, it doesn't make the district happen. It's the first part of the assessment of the buildings and the sites.
So will that be another warrant article?
No, yeah, that'll be in the one-time cost. That'll be in our.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry.
Yeah, Article 9. It'll be number 3 in Article 9. So, I just wanted to raise it with all of you. So, all right. The last one is a citizen's petition that's been filed. And again, I'm not going to go into the details. I'm going to need to schedule have an invitation for the proponents to speak. Mr. Ashton is in the audience this evening. So you'll invite him to a future meeting. And effectively would transfer money from the town side budget to the schools to fund full day kindergarten in this fiscal year. They wanted to go retroactively and I believe refund folks the funds that they've paid this year. The proposal, I think, as it stands at the moment, and again, I'm not going to speak to the details of it. It seems to say 80,000 from the town manager budget, 100,000 from the chief technology office budget, and 120,000 from the police budget, and that goes over into the schools. Now, there is a challenge to that, that the town meeting can't direct the school committee to spend money in any particular way. And Jane knows that as having been a former chair of the school committee. So even if town meeting did this and gave them money, the school committee doesn't have to spend it on full day kindergarten or anything in particular. So that is a caveat to this. So again, how that'll all shake out, I don't know. But I did confirm that point with council. So but again, I don't want to get into too great detail about this because I think you want to schedule the proponent on this. That's it. I think you have a couple of people with their hands raised.
Yep, Diane's first.
My question just is really not the contents of this, but does it make sense? What would we as the town do to present what those kinds of transfers out of a budget in the middle of a fiscal year, what that impact would be? Like, are we going to be armed with?
Yes.
We're not prepared to do this because this would mean we'd have to lay off 3 people or.
I mean, so.
I mean, because, you know, in my experience, is you know, we've never really fully countered. I mean, we have in some cases, but with some of the citizens petitions, I mean, this is something that could be devastating to certain budgets, and especially if in the citizens petition, they're directing certain budget line items to be impacted greatly. I think the town needs to say, and that's what, if this were to pass, this is what would happen. This is how we would have to change, or I don't know. It's a
Yes.
strategy question as much of a
Right, no, and this has been percolating for a couple of months, so it's not unknown, the specifics of changed a little bit. I mean, so one of the things that's a little frustrating, and people can propose whatever they want, is that you can cherry pick any data and make it sound like it supports your point of view. The town budget, you know, my budget has fluctuated. When I say mine, I mean the town manager's office budget, over time as people have moved in and out of it. So it's not like, and you know, over the last few years, you know, we've you know, turned a procurement position that used to be in the public works position has over time transformed into assistant town manager position, which is in my budget, which pays more money. At the same time, we've also been managing, you know, vastly more projects and a much more sophisticated governmental operation than we did when I got here 12 years ago, and that's because the residents said we want to do more. So you know, there's those, and then we also create a communications position because the select board said we need to have someone that lives this all the time, and that's been part of their mission, right? So and then for IT, you know, one of the things that's, you know, it's not mentioned anywhere is that IT, central IT absorbed a position from the school side budget a couple of years ago. So it took a full position, and so the number of headcount didn't change, but instead of it being 2 on the central budget, 2 on the school budget, it became 3 on the central budget and 1 on the school side budget. And that saved the schools a whole headcount and salary. So again, those are details that we have to get out there so people understand. The other is, and I'm just talking about IT for a second. The town is spending vastly more on cybersecurity. I mean, I'm not going to push back when the IT director says we have to upgrade, for example, from Windows 10 to 11, or we have to add cybersecurity protections so that, number one, these Zoom meetings don't get bombed, or our records don't get cyber hacked, or worse, kids at school get, get into bad things happen on their bring your own devices. So, and those have all been publicly discussed, but I think we have to, highlight them again and say, well, this is why these things are what they are, right? When you just scalpel a budget in the middle of the year, it's not so simple, right? You can't just, and what would it mean? It would be bad. I mean, besides the fact we're also 4 months into the year, so you've already spent money in certain areas. Right? So what do you do? So and by the way, in a worst case scenario of laying somebody off, that's also not free, right? You got to pay unemployment. In some cases, if there's a union position, it's vastly more complicated than that. In terms of taking money out of the police budget, that's almost all personnel, right? So I can't, there's a union contract, so that literally means that there'd be less people on the streets. So, and again, I don't want to get into any more detail on that. And the proponent will have their say in front of you and in front of town meeting. That said, there's a whole other side to this that does have to be explained, and we have an obligation to do that. And what people decide to do at town meeting is up to them. But I want to make sure, Diane, that there's a full public discussion and understanding of what these kinds of cuts would impact.
Chris, I just need to add also that what people are not probably taking into account here is that when the school budget was presented, it was over $1 million over budget. And we, the town, helped them be whole to the best of our ability. And I may have the wrong figure here, but I think it was in the vicinity of $800,000. So that extra $300,000 would push them back over $1 million. We have to live within our means. We would all love to have full day kindergarten for our kids. I would have loved to have that, but it's just not practical in a town this size. I mean, the decision to add full day kindergarten and fund it was foolhardy because there was an opinion that having children stay in school all day would double the numbers and impact the Chapter 70 and the Chapter 90 and all of the money that we get from the state. That didn't happen because if you've got 100 kids in the school, you've got 100 kids in the school, whether they're there for the part-time or full-time. It doesn't double the numbers. It's not that simple. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you have another question from Courtney.
Courtney.
Thanks, Jean. I'm just trying to, Chris, and Jean, I'm trying to figure out if council says that we can't, that this particular question can't dictate how the school committee spends money, is there a related argument that it can't dictate where the money may come from? Just at a higher level, do you know what I mean? Like that, like if this, and is there, I don't know.
So you can make your budget changes. I mean, we do them every year, usually on a small scale. In my 12 years here, we've never actually taken money from one budget and given it to another, an operating budget. We've never done that before. So it would, because it's incredibly disruptive.
Yeah, I'm also reflecting though, Chris, on sort of the legality of the ability of a question.
So you can
direct and take. I'm just
you can. I mean, I think on a high, again, I'm not going to speak for council. She'll have to explain it more as we get closer to this. Town meeting is the ultimate budget, approver, right? So if town meeting votes to move money from one budget to another, they can. That's at this consequence, right? And I don't know how much more detail would have to go into this. So I mean, I don't know that town meeting could say, here, you go figure it out, town manager, figure it out. I don't know if it works quite like that. I mean, I really don't want to have to make decisions about who would be laid off and what to cut. That said, the part about town meeting not being able to dictate how school committee spends is absolutely a fact. So that is that's problematic. So I mean, the school committee could in theory give the money right back to the town and spend it back, I guess. So again, I don't. That's what makes by the way, I fully appreciate the frustration of the folks who found themselves suddenly paying a fee they didn't think they were going to have to do. That said, as Jean pointed out, there was a budget challenge and the schools made a decision. The school committee made that decision. I didn't make that decision. The school committee made that decision. And to rob, in this case, one side of the budget to pay for a segment of the other it's nothing we've ever done before. And as a town. So it is that alone is somewhat challenging. You have a question from me, Jean, or a point you want to make? I'm sorry.
Yes. The bottom line here is, and Chris was absolutely correct, and you're correct, Courtney, that the school committee they could change things in their budget. I don't know what the process would be to do that, but they could dig deep in their school committee budget and maybe find that $300,000. I don't know where, honestly. In prior years, they gave up school supplies early in the year. There were different things that were done to help, but it was a very big ask this year, and the town helped. But we can't deplete every line of money that we have, because at some point the money runs out. And
right, I think, Jean, they would make the same argument to you about where, or that Chris just made, right? About who am I laying off and where's it coming from? I'm just trying to understand, what the options are. That's all. And I think, as someone with 2 kids at Deer Hill who is constantly, ever since kindergarten, been hit up for school supplies and this in the classroom and that in the classroom, it's crazy.
Preach into the choir.
It's insane to me.
I know. And then
I was just trying to understand what the limitations here are. I mean, I fully appreciate Chris's comments. I'm just trying to figure out, I don't know, what the options are here.
So typically these debates happen in the spring, right? And before we go into the budget season,
Right.
it's a big.
Right.
That's what happened this time, right?
Very poor timing.
So there was you know, and as Jean pointed out, the school budget had an $800,000 deficit, which was unprecedented, right? And
Right.
for a lot of reasons, and one of them was the fact that full-day kindergarten didn't get funded properly. They didn't budget properly, and so and again, so a whole bunch of free cash that may have gone to other things, money that had not, that, you know, what our surplus, by the way, free cash is not free and it's not always cash, but it's basically the net operating position we have at the end of the year. And typically the policies say we should put it to capital and things like that. We very rarely throw it at large amounts of it at the operating budget, though we do sometimes do it for small things. But this was unprecedented, and it was the right thing to do, right? And you got to pay people, right? The poor superintendent, who by the way, Sarah Shannon, the superintendent, and I work closely. We met last Friday. We meet regularly, so we have great communication. Our financial staffs are meeting. We're doing great work. So I really appreciate all that she's done as the superintendent. Her predecessor left her a budget that was broken, and she did, you know, and you don't know that on the surface. And then, you know, she did a great job in trying to manage it as best as you can when you walk in and all of a sudden you find out, wait, what did this is not in balance. So, you know, and we funded it, which is the appropriate thing to do, right? I mean, we got to pay people, and, you know, you don't want to disrupt kids during the classroom year either, right? You don't want to suddenly have a teacher not available. That said, I also would rather not have a police officer not available or an IT person not available during a year when we've already budgeted for it, absent some really horrible crisis. So while I fully appreciate the passion of the folks who are advocating for this, the solution is brutal to just, you know, make a slash in the middle of the year. You know, going forward, I can understand having all the discussions about going forward, totally understand it, and the schools can prioritize however they want. And we most certainly found funds for the schools over time for one-off projects like, you know, buying curriculums and doing improvements for them. And because they're what the schools do is critical to what the town is, right? People come here.
And when
more function for the schools. I don't mean to get into any more speeches, so, but
No, but
I'm all in favor of the schools. I mean, I'm a big believer. I'm here because I had a good education as a kid. But I think Vince has a question, Gene, if you want me to answer.
But let's not forget either, when I was first on the school committee, we owned the buses. And that turned out not to be good because they were aging. They needed a lot of work. It was very expensive. We had to fund a person to fix them all the time. And so the money and the expenses for that was very expensive. And the town covers the lease for 11 buses now. That's the last I knew, it was $90,000. I don't know what it is now. So I hear you, Courtney. I've been there. I don't know what the answer is, but I would suggest that they're probably working on the budget already now for next town meeting. And hopefully they'll find a solution for some little things that could change. Vince?
Yeah,
And
my
then-
only, sorry, my only question is, are they striving for an academic benefit for a full day kindergarten, you know, for future years? Or are they just looking for a, you know, offset to daycare, you know, for an hour and a half of, or 2 hours of daycare, for their child?
So, by the way, full day kindergarten's available, you have to pay for it, right? I mean, the full day option is available. Under Massachusetts law, you only have to provide a free half day. The second half, if you, and a lot of people take it, right? It's paid for. But that's a question you have to ask the proponents that I can't answer.
Right. And, you know, my, you know, back in my day, my kids had the option of half day kindergarten or full day, and we always chose half day. You know, they came home 11:30, 12 o'clock, whatever. You know, there was not a huge benefit of the actual, the additional hour and a half. So, and they've done pretty well. So.
I actually had somebody yell at me on this way out the door one night telling me that I don't like children. So that's why I was on the school committee. I don't like children. But anyway, I digress. You good, Vince? Okay. Mark? Can't hear.
You're muted.
So I fully appreciate the fact that the funding method here is flawed here in terms of having detrimental effects on other town departments and doing that midway through a cycle. But you know, this is really a school committee issue, and I would, you know, if has the group approached the school committee, right? Because that's really the way to get this solved, not through throwing a grenade into the town budget halfway through the fiscal year. It is really dealing with this directly with the school department and getting this sorted out, whether this year is not included or not. I mean, if someone's on, dying on the stake here for this year, it sounds like a selfish interest versus something that's a long-term, what's best interest for the town here and dealing going forward, right? So seems like that would be a better way to approach this subject. I just don't know if they've done that or not, or what the conversations have been. Haven't caught up on all the school committee meetings.
It's a good question, and it's
You can ask them when they come in front of you. I can't answer.
Okay. Just
So
thanks.
that's a warrant. So there's a couple of things that are simple. There's just a couple. The review continues. Like I said, next week is the big conversation on public safety building. If anyone has any question about anything else, please ask, particularly any new members if you have any questions about anything or need information. There's a lot of stuff that's on the website. It may not always be as accessible as it should be, so let me know. And, there's also you should all have town email addresses. There's a OneDrive that's shared. Is there not for advisory? I don't know if everyone uses it. We do it for select board. We're a Microsoft Office. So we can make sure there's a lot of materials that are back up there. So you can just, have shared access to files and things. I believe there's a OneDrive for the advisory committee. And we can make sure that there's a lot of materials populated. That'll be easier to find than having to go search for them. So,
okay. I also want to note that the 3 new members need to get town email addresses, and correspondence should be through that. I ask that everybody sends to both of mine, my personal and my town, because sometimes it's easier for me to access my personal during the day, but I always copy my town if I respond to someone. So I don't know if you've already gotten those or not, but I think we have to request them for you.
I still have mine.
We'll do that this week.
So I guess probably Mike and Courtney. Mike or Michael, what's better? Mike or Michael?
Either one is
Okay.
fine with me.
So if you both of you can just contact my office, Tracy or Lisa, and we'll make sure that IT sends you the information to whatever other email you have, and then we can set up your town email.
Could I jump off what Jean said and say the opposite, which is I highly recommend the new members not integrate your personal email with your town email and really work off just that one
Right.
email.
Right, you should have separate accounts, absolutely. They shouldn't flow into each other.
And use the town, town email for any town communications. Yeah, that's all. That's a good tip.
Okay,
for the old timers.
questions?
That's the one for tonight. So for next week, do you want to reach out to for this is a petition next week, Jane, to have that presented, and I'll have more materials in some of these other articles. And we can talk about what you want to tee up for next week for sure. Because I also don't expect you want to be here for 3 minutes.
Okay. So we are going to have a meeting each week until we're done, but like Chris just said, it probably will only be 3 meetings. So next week, we will have more information on some of these items, and we'll be able to take action and make our recommendations. And then there'll be continuing conversation on a few of them for following meetings.
You might want to do one more in October, June, before town meeting to set speaking roles and things like that.
Oh, right. There would be one, and I don't have my calendar in front of me. Wait a
So
minute.
November 3rd, the town meeting is November 3rd. It's Monday, November 3rd, 7 o'clock at the gymnasium at the middle high schools in the back.
So next week is the 24th. So there will be a meeting that night. The following week, October 1st. And then the week after that, we'll plan on October 8th. So that's 3, and it brings it 2 weeks into October. You think that's enough, Chris?
Oh, no, but we have to have the warrant wrapped by October 1, so.
Right. So hopefully we can get,
Yeah, I think it should be. Again, if anyone has any any questions, just ask at this material sheet you need. I will make sure that you're buried with stuff in a polite, helpful way over the next couple of days. And I'll make sure that OneDrive has materials in it, but I'll also send links to the town's website to make it a little easier than that. And again,
okay,
if anyone wants to set up a tour, like I said, please reach out to my office, with that, whether it doesn't have to be done the next week or two, but if this place you want to see over time, let us know.
okay. So we good? Okay, so could I have a motion to adjourn at,
Gene,
yes,
quick question. We had a couple of minutes to approve from Leotina.
actually, we only have one from her.
Okay,
Two of them were already approved.
all right.
So she and I are working together to just make sure that we're all set. She submitted 2 sets of minutes already to the town clerk. And
Okay,
then she has another set that I need to review because she didn't, the recording was a little bit funky. So she wants me to weigh in on who made motions, et cetera.
Right,
So, and I
right.
do have that. I do have very cryptic notes on that. So I'll take care of that. So hopefully by next week, we'll have
Okay.
some minutes to approve.
All right. I just saw her email, so
Okay. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
motion.
Second,
Second,
Who seconded?
Diane,
Diane Kennedy. Okay, so we have to do a roll call vote. Mark Cameron,
Mark Cameron, I.
Tom Callahan,
Tom Callahan, aye.
Courtney Murphy,
Courtney Murphy, aye.
Diane Kennedy,
Diane Kennedy, I.
Michael Flaherty,
Michael Flaherty, aye.
Vince Thornton,
Been sorting. Aye.
and Mark Maggi,
Mark Maggi, aye.
and Gina Stino, I'm an I. So thanks, folks, and we'll see you
Hi,
next week.
everybody.
Chris,
Chris, can you hang on for 2 seconds?
Have a good night.
Chris?
Gonna shut us, I'm gonna just close off the stop.
yeah, I wanted to